Fueled by C4, Cellucor, and Extend. Use the code Clydesdale to get 20% off at checkout at c4energy.com. On Clydesdale Media, where we bring you the widest array of content here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notifier so you're the first to know when new episodes are available. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Clydesdale Media Roundtable, where we are featuring the athletes of the 2023 CrossFit Games Semifinals. And we are so honored to have with us Matt Brady. Matt, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with a weird line of questioning, just because that's who I am. Have you ever watched the TV show The Goldbergs?
Never seen it. Can't say I have.
Okay. Well, there's a character on there who there's a group of kids. They're like the sons of the family, and they're called the Jenkintown Posse or whatever. And they're all kind of a bunch of nerds and geeks and everything. And this cool kid moves into town, and his name is Matt Bradley. And
hilarious.
every time they refer to him as Matt Bradley, not just Matt. It is Matt Bradley. And so every time I see your name on Instagram, I can only think of you as Matt Brady.
That's too funny. Yeah, you know what? I remember someone in high school, one of my friends calling me Matt Bradley all the time, and I never knew where it came from. So there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Yep, I just threw my phone across the room. But anyway, yeah, so every time I see you online, I'm just like, why can't I just say Matt? His name is Matt.
Yeah, when you have two first names, it kind of comes with it. I've been called Matt Brady pretty much my whole life. People like to call me by my full name, so it's nothing new.
What about
okay? Oh, good.
Brady?
So when that happens in Pasadena, it's just natural.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Sorry, I talked over you, Amy. What'd you say?
I was just gonna say, what about just Brady? Does anybody just call you Brady?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely get a lot of just Brady's. My good friends. I mean, I grew up, playing football, and Brady was just the coaches would call me Brady, so my friends would call me Brady, that type of thing. So I go by either.
Yeah.
So let's start with your training camp. You are with OPT?
Yes, I
am. With Michael as your coach?
Michael is not my coach. Scott Gillis,
okay,
who is another owner at OPT, he's my coach. Yeah.
I made an assumption there. Thank you for correcting me. And so what's that like, and why did you get hooked up with them?
Yeah, it was really coincidental, I have to say. Like we can kind of go into a backstory if you want, but I used to be on the Canadian national ski team, and when I stopped skiing, I decided I wanted to get into CrossFit. And, just coming from a high elite level sports background, I knew that the people at the games weren't training in classes. Like I just knew that there was no way these people were kind of making the CrossFit Games by going to a class every day. So I was looking for more of like a personalized approach, because that's what I had when I was ski racing from my strength and conditioning coaches. So I was lucky enough to stumble across OPT in Calgary, not really even knowing it was, quote unquote famous or well known in the CrossFit community. And, I started working with Scott because he had a background with a lot of hockey athletes. So we thought it would transfer really well with my skiing background. And I've been training with him for the last 7 years. So it's been a long time.
So I find the best shows are the ones we talk the least about CrossFit. So now you've opened a door. So you were with the Canadian national ski team.
Yes. Yeah.
So like in the United States, in Colorado, we have like the US training camp where all the US athletes kind of go and that they get their nutrition taken care of, their recovery, all that kind of stuff. Does that happen in Canada when you're on a national team?
It does. Yeah. It's pretty much exclusive for skiing. I would say it's pretty much exclusive to Calgary and Whistler are kind of the two camps. Calgary, there's a huge facility here called Winsport. I don't know, my numbers might be wrong on this, but I think Under Armour gave them $14 million or something to build this facility. And it's the full package when you're on the national team. There's, hot tubs, cold plunges, saunas, unlimited physiotherapy, chiropractor, strength and conditioning coaches, like a world-class facility with all Alico equipment. You don't really know how lucky you are until you stop skiing or stop being on a national team, because the equipment is just out of the flow.
So what's it like being on a national team? Like, is your whole day devoted to training and recovery, train, recovery, eat, recovery?
Yeah, I would say so. It's a lot of, I was actually going to school while I was on the national team, but when I was skiing in the winter, I wouldn't go to school. So I would try and go to school in the summer, spring, summer, and fall. And yeah, it's very much what you said: train, eat, recover, train again, sleep. But I have to say, I've noticed when I started training in CrossFit, there were a lot of things that I started doing that made me a better athlete that I wish I had done when I was ski racing. And even today, I still stay in touch with a lot of my friends that are on the national team, and I'm trying to push a lot of these good habits that I've uncovered towards them, so they can, up their game by the 1% that they need to get a little bit better.
So did you start skiing as a young child then?
I did, yeah. I actually grew up skiing in Western New York. So I grew up in Burlington, Ontario, which is about an hour north of the border. And then my family had a ski chalet down in this place called Ellicville, New York. And so I grew up skiing there and just club skiing. And then when I was, I think 15, I actually ended up going to a boarding school in Lake Placid, New York, where it was like a prep school. So you would ski, basically 8 a.m. till about 1 every day. And then you would have class from about 2 till 9 p.m. So there was like hockey players, there was other students there as well.
So my interest is, okay, you did all this stuff with the national team. What did they do better than what you see in the CrossFit world? And then you come to CrossFit, and what do they do better than you saw in the ski world?
Okay. What do the ski team do better? I mean, I would say unlimited physio, chiropractor, massage, all that stuff. I would kill to have that in today's world, especially, in kind of my later age. That would be really nice. Just the access to equipment. One thing I think that they did really well when I was ski racing was video review. Like, there's a lot of things. Your days go really quickly as a ski racer. You're skiing all day, you're training, and then you have to, do dry land. You have to tune your skis, especially when you're on the development team, which doesn't sound like a lot of work, but it really is. It takes a lot of work to have fast skis. It's a big part of the sport. And then you would do video review, and then on top of that, you have to do, you get body work and eat and everything else. And I was trying to go to school, so it was a lot. So yeah, I would say that video review was crucial, and that's something I've tried to bring with me to CrossFit. I video all my workouts, and when I'm eating lunch or dinner or whatever, I review my videos and see where I can make up time.
And Damien, who is our newest member to the channel, said, and the standards in skiing don't change every season.
Yeah, that's true. And I actually was on the national team for a sport called ski cross. So it's a very specific type of skiing. And for those that don't know what that is, it's like motocross on skis. So, 4 people go down a course at the same time over jumps and bank turns. And then the top 2 in each heat advance until they find, a champion or a second place, third place. So although the standards don't change, the courses change quite a bit. And it really is kind of that unknown and unknowable in ski cross as well, because you never really know what you're going to get. And there's a lot of parallels I think about now as kind of CrossFit's evolving with judges and things like that I think we could take from individual sports like skiing and tennis or golf or whatever, and bring them into CrossFit.
Yeah, ski cross. I'm glad you brought that up, because it is one of the most brutal physical sports I've ever watched on TV.
Yeah, it's super fun. I mean, it's funny to me because people watch it and they think it's absolutely insane. I equate it to going down the highway, like when you're going 100 kilometers an hour, sorry, 60 miles an hour. Uh, you don't think you're going that fast, and it's the same on a ski cross course. When all of you are going the same speed, it doesn't seem that crazy. But even now, I watch it on TV, and the level of ski cross gets better every year, and the races are tighter and tighter, and yeah, it's hard to fathom that I used to do that when I watch it now. So,
How many elbows would you get per race?
well, you're not allowed to elbow people, but it
I've
happens.
watched this, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where the judging comes in, right? It happens quite a bit. Yeah. I don't know if I could say per race, but yeah, in a single run, you're probably going to get an elbow. Yeah.
Okay, so now CrossFit. What does CrossFit do better than the ski training?
Yeah. So I think, things that I've learned in CrossFit is nutrition. When I was on kind of the Europa Cup and World Cup circuits in Europe, you're accustomed to eating whatever the hotel's serving that night or whatever they're putting out for breakfast. And so I'd say the nutrition, just having much more control on what I'm eating, has gone a long way. And I get it for the athletes that are on the road. It's really hard to organize meals, and you would essentially need to stay at Airbnbs or have a team chef or something like that, which definitely would be tough to afford. So I would say the nutrition and just controlling what you're eating in CrossFit, I've done a lot better. The training, like the actual construct of what you're doing in the gym and periodization and things like that, I found that to be a lot better. And I think I've realized that, although skiing is a power sport, I think there would still be benefits to having some sort of endurance base for things like recovery. And, one of the things that always used to happen to me when I ski raced was I would cramp up, especially if it was like a 5 degrees Celsius, 37 Fahrenheit, something like that. If it was a warmer day, I would cramp up a lot. And I think just having like an aerobic base would prevent that. And, I thought I was fit when I was ski racing. Like I thought I was fit. And I remember my first week at OPT, Scott, my coach, he was away on a trip out east or something for a couple weeks. And so I was stuck with Michael for a couple weeks. And I swear I always bug Michael to this day that he was trying to get me to quit CrossFit before he even started, because he put me through tests where I was actually out back throwing up pretty much every single day. So I thought I was in good shape until that week.
So I want to say, the conversion thing can be tough, from kilometers to miles, from Celsius to Fahrenheit. But the toughest thing for me is when a Canadian says 37 degrees is getting warm, right? That I just can't comprehend.
Yeah, for sure. It's especially in Calgary. I mean, we have like a 6-month winter here, so anything over 37 feels pretty warm here.
I love what you said there about nutrition, because I think that that's such an important piece. And like when I came into CrossFit, and I totally bought into the nutrition piece, and it's so important. And I was so shocked that that wasn't a part of every type of fitness or athletic program that there is. And, sure, of course, on the elite level, maybe it is, but I'm thinking even, my own kids who are growing up in youth sports, and why aren't we talking about nutrition and healthy ways of eating for performance then? Like, let's start here so that it's not as big of a jump when we're, higher level athletes.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think as you become more of an elite athlete and you look at elite athletes, you just notice that no matter what sport it is, all the best athletes care about these things, right? They all care about their body work, their training, their nutrition, their sleep, right? And I think that's something that maybe Matt Fraser really brought to CrossFit, was just going that extra mile and making sure all those boxes are checked. And you look at guys like Tom Brady or something like that, and they're doing all those things as well. So
yeah, I think that's what's Matt brought, because he was near where Tom Brady's guy was, right? And so he actually got to take advantage of some of that stuff and pulled some of that stuff from the NFL and the TB12 method over to CrossFit, and made it popular on this side of the sport as well. And what I love about what Fraser did is you're not eating or doing nutrition for aesthetics. It's for performance. And that's a big difference.
Yeah, and that might actually go against what Amy was talking about a little bit, because when you're just trying to consume a certain number of macros, sometimes those have to be unhealthy, right? And I've tried to keep my diet as clean as possible, but sometimes I'm eating Sour Patch Kids or whatever just to get the quick carbohydrates that burn quickly during a training session.
Sure. I mean, and there's certainly a place for that, like in that elite stuff. I'm just like, when I look at some of the youth stuff and they're like, yeah, we're going to have a meal before we play our game. Let's get fast food. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to McDonald's after a ski race in Europe, and I was just eating this burger. Like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
this is terrible.
Yeah. So I know we're going to get back to CrossFit, but I just want to acknowledge this. You had some big changes happen in your life in March.
Oh, yes. Yes, I got married. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's the one. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if there was another big change, we need to know about it.
No, I mean, it's been an exciting year. Yeah, I got married and then I qualified for semifinals, which has obviously been a very long-term goal for me. So yeah, it's been an exciting year. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was. I have to say, it was largely put on my wife to plan most of it, because I was just very dedicated to training and getting ready for the Open and quarterfinals and everything. So shout out to my wife for putting together a very, very special day. And it was cool because I actually saw, I think Noah was getting married around the same time. So it made me feel like, oh, okay, this isn't that out of the norm.
And her name is?
Jennifer, or Jenny. She goes by Jenny. Yeah.
And how did you guys meet?
So we actually met at a bar about 7 years ago during university. Yeah.
Were you guys going to school at the same place?
We weren't, actually. I was going to the University of Calgary. She was going to Dalhousie University, which is on the east coast of Canada. And she's from Calgary, so she flew back to visit her family for a weekend and decided to go out to a bar. And I was at a bar as well. And we actually haven't been back since, because we're not huge, bar people or party people necessarily. But at the time when we were 21, it was what you did to meet girls. So there you go.
And it had to be meant to be, because you're not normally in the same place and you're not normally at a bar. So the fact that it all happened in that one night, stars aligned, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we always say. And I think it's special to us that we actually met in person, had a conversation, and it wasn't necessarily like online dating or anything like that. So yeah, we always think it was just totally by chance. And I had to work up the confidence to go talk to her, and she was with her friends, and I thought she was good looking, and yeah, we talked the rest of the night and kept the conversation going since then. So yeah, it's flown by.
Does she?
So did you have to?
She does CrossFit minus the Olympic lifting. So I actually programmed for her. We have a nice gym in our garage here, and she works out there, and yeah, so she's taken definitely a more interest in fitness since we met. Yep.
Nice.
So
what were the implications of a long distance relationship to start this thing off?
Yeah, so we actually we were in our last years of school, and but she was going on, or she was coming back here for the summer. So we hung out for a whole summer when we started dating, and then she went on an exchange to Europe for a couple months. And so, we did the long distance thing, but eventually we started living together in the same city, and we actually moved to Toronto together for a few years in 2017. And yeah, kind of built a life together there. And then during COVID, we decided to move back to Calgary.
So this has been a long courtship.
It has been, yeah. It has been, yeah. It's been a really long, long relationship, and we've taken, the appropriate steps. And I think it was 2021. I finally decided to pop the question. So,
Which one of you needed more convincing in this time to take that next step?
yeah, I don't. Nobody needed any convincing. Like we always knew we were going to get married, but I don't know. I just think we wanted to make sure we kind of had all the financial things sorted out in our lives, and just made sure we were really solid from just like a financial standpoint, and we wanted to move back to Calgary and make sure that was all settled and everything. So there was no like hurdles or anything like that. We just let it cook. It took its time.
I was just giving you crap, but I've been married 26 years and we're still trying to figure out the financial thing. Just so you know.
Oh yeah, getting married did not solve that. I'll tell you that.
That's not going to
No.
But I'll let you live in that honeymoon phase.
Yeah, and when and if you have a kid, then it all blows up.
Yeah, I'm watching that firsthand because my brother's getting married, or sorry, my brother's having a kid in about a month here, and it's the first kind of kid in our family. So I'm watching that blow up firsthand. I'm learning lots.
So Elise asks, was she super surprised by the time you popped a question?
She actually was, yeah. I mean, not to knock on my friends or anything, but a lot of them, I don't know if it's just common in Canada or something, but a lot of my friends wait, 8, 9, 10 years till they ask the question. So she did not think I was on the same page as her. Not to be honest, I threw her a lot of curveballs kind of leading up to it, being like, oh, I don't, I'm not ready for marriage and that kind of thing. So she was super surprised when I popped the question. She actually couldn't believe it, but was very, very happy and excited.
So we had Hannah on yesterday.
Oh,
we
awesome.
had Amy on a while back. So you have quite the little team there at OPT. And Hannah was saying yesterday, I asked her, is there much trash talking that goes on when you guys are going head to head in the gym? And she said, with the girls, not so much, but Matt and I go back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah, we do. We do talk a lot of trash, Hannah and I, and it's a lot of fun.
So you've come into the sport a little bit older, and Hannah is still relatively young. She 20? Something like that.
20 or 21. Yeah, she's very young. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you need to be a mentor to some of the athletes, or is that the coach's responsibility?
Yeah, I think I'm a good gauge for some of the younger athletes because they can kind of see what's coming. I mean, I constantly get razzed for how long my warm up takes every day. So I spend about 45 minutes doing mobility and kind of warming up before I'm ready to go. And I just kind of tease them that's coming your way. It's also an interesting dynamic at OPT because it's primarily female dominant in terms of the elite athletes. There's probably 8 or 9 female athletes that are competing at a very high level, whereas I'm one of the only males. There's a couple others, but that's kind of at the elite level, and so when we do like a monthly throwdown, I think the other girls must have told you it's called Friends Club. It used to be called Fight Club. That name had to change because it was getting too competitive. And yeah, so sometimes during those scenarios or competitive scenarios, I think the girls might lean on me to talk to about things because I'm kind of the non-competitive, maybe a little bit of a safe space for them to go to. So.
Well, 2 quick follow-ups to that. Isn't it infuriating when the 20-year-old comes in doing cartwheels and backflips without any mobility, and you've got to take an hour just to get to bend over and grab a bar?
Yeah, it is infuriating. I know, and I didn't know how lucky I had it back in those days, but I mean, even Hannah over the last couple of years has started to warm up more, and we've kind of been working on that. So I think she's starting to see that and why I spend the amount of time I do.
And the other perspective I'm curious about is Hannah's been in the sport since she was 13. And at the age of 18, she decided to take a year off because to see if she really loved the sport. Decided she did and came back. But her whole like real athletic career is CrossFit. You did something else, learned that life, and now are adjusting to this CrossFit life. Does that give you a perspective that you can share with others?
Yeah, I think it does. And CrossFit's an interesting sport, especially as you get older. I think it becomes harder and harder to compete as frequently. Whereas when I was ski racing, we would compete twice a weekend, like Saturday, Sunday, every weekend through the whole winter. So like I got a ton of just competitive experience. And so, I don't know. I mean, I don't know a lot of CrossFitters at the younger age, but at least at OPT, I don't see them doing competitions every weekend or every month even.
Mhm.
Where I think that's really valuable. It's just to get experience competing. And I'm always trying to tell the younger athletes, go and compete, like just learn. Because every time you compete, you learn something new. And so I try and pass that on a little bit to them. Yeah.
Yeah, what a great perspective, because you have all those reps built in into your, like I'm sure you still get nervous or something before you hit the competition floor, but just knowing that, hey, I've done this, I've practiced this, and that just can kind of help support that where, yeah, as it's CrossFit, you can't just be competing all the time with that. That's interesting thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it just teaches you how to manage, nerves and anxiety about competing. Because I even find with CrossFit, sometimes, especially during COVID, like there was a year maybe or a year and a half you went without competing, at least in a live scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just forget little things and how you manage your nutrition throughout the weekend or how you manage nerves and things like that. Where it really is something you need to practice. And I would say that is the benefit of maybe the friends clubs that we're running or have been doing the last year at OPT. It just it gives you kind of that same feeling, but it's not as detrimental if you mess up or anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
the consequences are lower, but it teaches you a little bit on how to manage those. So yeah, definitely valuable.
So one more follow up to this, and then we'll get into what your year's been like. And that is, we had Madison McElhaney on yesterday. She's a former MMA fighter who is now a CrossFitter, and she was a sponsored MMA fighter, but yeah, all the way. She gets so frustrated at the organization of the sport of CrossFit because she's been in this world where that is a real sport and CrossFit hasn't found its footing yet in what it needs to do to be a real sport. Do you have some of those same frustrations?
Yeah, I do, and I was actually a really big fan of the sanctional system. I know a lot of people weren't, but I actually thought it was getting closer towards where the sport needs to go. Just having kind of your main competitions like Wadapalooza, Dubai, and all those opportunities for athletes to compete. It was almost creating it more like a pro tour, which I think is where CrossFit needs to go. And so yeah, I definitely have those same frustrations.
Yeah, there was actually a rumor floating back in the sanctional days of converting it to where Rogue, Wadapalooza, and Dubai would be considered the Triple Crown.
Mm.
So those would be the elevated one, and you could even go Grand Slam with adding a CrossFit Games to it if you wanted to. And then you kind of earn points to be able to have the opportunities at those Triple Crown events. And if somebody won all three of the Triple Crown events, there was going to be a bonus.
Wow, wow. That would have been very cool, especially from a spectator standpoint. Yeah, I like the kind of Grand Prix model or whatever you want to call it. With NASCAR, or, just having like the ongoing kind of point system. I think it's really exciting from that standpoint. So I don't know. I mean, I almost think now like Wadapalooza is too big, and they're people circle Wadapalooza on their calendar as kind of their annual trip or annual event they want to go to. I wonder if maybe CrossFit missed out on that opportunity of having it as kind of one of their sanctioned events. So
they are still a licensed CrossFit event. They just don't advertise it because they don't need to.
Yeah. Okay. There it is.
Right.
Yeah.
But what's crazy about Wodapalooza is they do this qualifier and people don't make the elite division and they're in the RX division. And those can sometimes be games athletes. Like that's how big Wodapalooza has become.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I do. I don't have a great time with online qualifiers, so I've kind of stayed away from the individual Wodapalooza side of things. But I went on a team last year in RX, and I mean we had a very fit team, and I think we were like 2 or 3 spots out of the lead kind of thing. And yeah, it was a very competitive weekend just in the RX division.
So let's get to this year because this has to be a special year for you. You have been doing CrossFit since 2017 in the open. And I don't know when, were you serious from 2017 or did it take time to kind of like ramp up into that? I'm going to be competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I was serious. I was competing. I wanted to compete. I came from a competitive sport, and I didn't have interest in just kind of training just for no reason. So I would say I was competitive right from the start, or had aspirations to be. I think it was a really big change for me in terms of physical adaptation. Skiing is a very power-based sport. It's almost similar to bobsled. You're training a lot of those like fast twitch muscles. And so I had to spend a lot of time to kind of develop that aerobic base and a lot of skills. I mean, I never grew up playing or doing gymnastics or anything like that. So that took a long time to develop. And skiers also don't have much upper body strength, which is not good for CrossFit.
So you start making quarterfinals in 2021 and your leaps are big, right? 21 it's 435, 222 it's 263, and then this year you get all the way to 61, which is right on the bubble. Do I get in or do I not? So now you've made this vast improvement, but what's the anxiety like when you're on that bubble waiting for the decision?
Oh, I got a story for you guys.
Oh, yes.
The anxiety was large. Yeah. So I was I think at the end of the weekend, into quarterfinals weekend, I think I was sitting in 61st, and then penalties are getting assessed that whole week or whatever. So I'm moving up to 55th, and then I get a penalty, and I move down to 57th or whatever. Anyways, I'll have to remember the timeline of this all, but I think it was of the Monday after quarterfinals. I think they locked the leaderboard, right? And so so I was sitting in 60th that day, and I think it was they stopped giving out penalties, I think, on the Friday or whatever. So nothing was really changing over the weekend. So I was like, okay, I think I've locked in a spot. I'm in 60th. And so Monday night rolls around and they do that announcement. They tweet out the leaderboard is now locked or finalized or whatever their terminology was. Invites will go up tomorrow. And so I was in 60th. So I was ecstatic. I had kind of a moment with my wife just saying, we did it. We've been working hard at this for so long. Like we finally made it into a semifinal. And then the next morning rolls around, the next night rolls around, and it's Tuesday at 9 o'clock at night, and like, oh, it's weird. I haven't got my invite yet to semifinals, and my training partner, or one of my training partners here, Greg Gross, who's also qualified, he got his invite, and Hannah was getting hers, and I said, oh, what's going on? And so I couldn't figure it out, and my wife logs on to the leaderboard, and she goes, oh, you're in 61st, and I'm like, what? Like I was in 60th last night. I even checked Tuesday morning. I was in 60th, and so I was extremely frustrated. Like what has happened? And essentially I emailed CrossFit, didn't get a response. I found Dave Eubank's email somehow, and I sent a message to him, and I basically got an email response saying, yeah, we made a mistake. We're really sorry about that. We made a mistake. You're in 61st. Sure enough, you'll get in, type of thing. So it's extremely frustrating for me to kind of go through that. And
like just the emotional roller coaster of that.
Yeah, it was really up and down. And then, it went from Monday night, everyone at my gym saying, congrats, we're so excited for you. Like, way to go. You earned this, all the way to the next week, people being like, we can't believe what happened to you. Like, we're super sorry. We're sad. And, I know my emotions training wise changed a lot. Like, I had all the motivation once I qualified. And then the next day was kind of just really shook and was finding it hard to push, the way I needed to. So yeah, it was interesting to just feel those different emotions through the week. Eventually, I did get in when, I think there was two athletes that decided to go team. So I got really lucky there and was able to get a spot, but was really kind of disappointed in that process and yeah, how it was handled.
I've got a lot going in my head, right? They said locked,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the stuff that's infuriating. Yeah. I think when I talked to Madison yesterday, and I talked to you who have been in other sports, where like you don't make the announcement until you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It was as simple as that. It's not that we're upset that you made a mistake. Don't announce it's locked.
Yeah.
Until you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was really, really frustrating, and it was confusing too, because if you went onto my, games profile or CrossFit profile or whatever, it still said 60th in North America West. So I was just kind of left there being, oh, maybe the leaderboard is wrong, and my profile's right. So it was, it was a lot of just guessing and wondering what's going on. So yeah. I've kind of moved on from it, and I made it in. I got a spot. I believe I deserve to be there. So yeah.
Yeah, you made it in. Congratulations on that. So what changed then with your training for you to make these leaps? Like, was it just putting more intention? Was it making big changes, or was it just the growth of your athletic ability in the sport?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was any fundamental change. I noticed when I moved from Toronto back to Calgary in 2020. And I think that was really big for me, just being back in the OPT environment, having my coach's eyes on me more frequently, being around more competitive athletes. So I'd say that was, if there was a change, that would be it. But slow growth is really kind of the name of the game, and I think I even wrote in my posts when I made the semifinals was something along the lines of, you got to do something good for a long period of time, and that's a quote I heard from Michael Fitzgerald a long time ago, and it's true. Like, you just need to consistency, like just have consistency in your training and nutrition, and just that belief that it's going to work out. And I'll be honest, like there were times I thought about, giving up competing in the sport, and not because I didn't love it. It's just between me and my wife, we've sacrificed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It really does consume my life. And, there's other parts of our lives that we're definitely interested in, experiencing when that end of competition comes. So there were times where, it was on my mind, but I truly love the sport. And I think that's one thing that COVID was really good for. It's like when all the competitions were canceled, and I mean, I think Canada was a little bit harsher on kind of their lockdown.
Restrictions.
Like it was almost a 2-year thing here. Like seriously, like I don't think I competed for almost 2 years. And, even when I moved to Calgary, things were locked down here for another 8 months or something like that. So, I think during that time, like I still wanted to train. I still, every day, there was no competitions on the horizon, didn't have to eat properly or anything, but I still wanted to work out and still wanted to train hard. And that really proved to myself, like, I love this sport. Like, I love training for it. Competing is kind of the cherry on top, but I just love the daily grind of it. So, yeah.
Nice.
So now that it's official and you're headed to North America West, unshook now and back to training, like everything's gravy?
Yeah, as soon as I got that invite, it bumped my motivation up big time, and training's been going super well. Greg and I train once a week at his gym in Calgary, and we push each other. We started doing that, I think, in January leading up to the Open. Um, and it got us to quarterfinals and it got us to semifinals together. So we're continuing to do that and push each other hard into semis. And I'm super excited for Pasadena and to finally be taking that competition floor because I actually did make it to the Can West sanctional in 2020, which was a huge breakthrough for me. And that was tough because I was training really hard for that. I don't think they announced that it was canceled until April 14th or something like that. So there was a month there when COVID was, everything was shut down on March 12th till they announced that Can West was canceled. I still believed it was going to happen. I was kind of running around Toronto trying to find gyms to train at and things like that. So that was devastating because I was really excited to be at that level back then.
So you've done Wodapalooza as a team. Is this going to be like your biggest individual competition ever?
Yeah, I would say it is. I was at Can West last year. I came seventh there and was competing with all the big dogs. And I tend to do a lot better in live competition, so I'm really really excited for Pasadena. And yeah, I would say Can West was probably my biggest individual competition. And it was just really it was really cool to be competing against guys like Chandler and James and Mitchell Stevenson. And I was actually in third after the first day, so I think on Saturday morning I was in the lane next to Chandler and James, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like I'm really going head to head with these guys right now. And there was one event in particular where Chandler and I, it was a chipper and it ended on a row, and Chandler was like 10 calories ahead of me by the time I got on the rower, and rowing's one of my strong suits. So I was trying to hunt him down, and I think I was like 4 or 5 seconds short of getting him. So that was a fun battle, and we talked about it after. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. So
yeah, it's a shame what happened with Can West because it really was a great competition with people who just missed the games or just missed the games or whatever, and went there to compete and get some experience. And then now it's known as like the Fire Fest of CrossFit.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And yeah, it's too bad what happened there. But yeah, as you said, the weekend was incredible. Like it was a really good competition. Amazing athletes that were there. Really good setup, and everything was logistics were really well run and everything like that. And yeah, it's too bad what happened from the money perspective. Like, still waiting for that check. But yeah, it's I doubt it'll ever happen again. At least at that, like, to that level. So yeah, it's too bad that happened because we need more of those bigger competitions in Canada. We're missing that. So
yeah, I wouldn't wait for the check anymore.
Yeah.
So just a couple quick things, and we'll let you get out of here. And
I have to ask an important question.
I think you're being modest about your improvement. You said like ski racers have no upper body strength. I'm looking at your recorded max snatch of 290 pounds and your recorded clean and jerk of 340. Those are impressive numbers, my friend, for someone who lacks upper body strength.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say I don't lack upper body strength anymore, but there was a few years that it was pretty rough, and you could find me in the corner doing deficit handstand push-ups and strict pull-ups. So yeah, it's come a long way. But yeah, thank you.
And then my last question, I'll turn it over to Amy, is you're going to North America West. What is the goal? What is the expectation? And who is coming with you?
Yeah, the goal is top 20. I firmly believe I can be in top 20, and I know a lot of people are going to criticize that, saying how does someone go from 60th to 20th? But I do a lot better in live competition. I'm confident in my abilities there, and yeah, so the goal and expectation are the same, I would say. I'm also just from an expectation standpoint, really trying to enjoy the process, like enjoy training for it because not a lot of athletes get to. And I really want to enjoy, warming up for events, being on the competition floor, like just enjoy the weekend because, you don't know how many chances you're going to get to be out there. And then who's coming with me? My wife's coming with me. My parents are coming. My sister and her boyfriend are coming. I'm traveling down with, I think there's like 30 athletes from OPT like coming down. Coaches are coming. So we're going to have a good crowd there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. A big cheering squad too. Yeah. Sounds like. So here's my question. I stalked your Instagram a little bit. And so I'm a big nature lover. And I want to know, I think you posted at Banff National Park. Is that okay? Tell me, is it really as beautiful as it seems?
It is. It is so beautiful. I think it's limestone in the water or something that makes it that green. It's really cold, but it's super, super beautiful. I'd highly recommend it. I take it for granted on, how close we are to the national park. And yeah, it's amazing. And I would say if I miss anything about skiing, it was the being out in nature and being in the mountains all the time, because it's, we're super lucky to have such amazing mountains and national parks here in Canada.
Yeah, that's awesome. I loved it. Love those pictures.
Well, people may think that your expectations are crazy, but just remember Bailey Rail went from backfill to game spot. So it has been done before.
There we go. Yeah.
I want to thank you so much, Matt Brady, for being on with us. This has been a blast getting to know you and your history and your backstory. Good luck in Pasadena, and we'll see you there.
Yes,
okay.
Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And everybody in the chat, thank you for jumping in and saying hey. We'll see everybody next time on the Clydesdale Media Podcast.